Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're diving into Nikola's Q3 2024 earnings call. We got the reports, we got transcripts, market data, all that.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's a lot.
Yeah, it's a bit of a wild ride, this one.
So we're going to try to break it down for everybody listening. Nikola, walking a tightrope.
That's one way to put it.
Record hydrogen fuel cell truck sales this quarter. 88 units.
A 22% jump. Huge.
But then the financials.
Yeah, the financials are a little concerning, to say the least.
Putting it lightly.
Yeah.
So 88 units, it means they're dominating the North American heavy-duty fuel cell market, at least right now.
For the moment, yeah.
But you look at the gross loss of $62 million, dwindling cash reserves.
Paints a different picture, doesn't it?
Yeah. Raises some serious questions.
For sure.
And they've said that they only have enough cash to last until Q1 2025.
The clock is ticking.
Yeah. The pressure is on.
Big time.
But despite all that, they're still going full steam ahead with this dual strategy: battery electric trucks and hydrogen fuel cells.
It's an interesting approach. Most companies would probably just pick a lane and stick with it.
Right. It's bold.
It is. They're basically doubling down on this whole zero-emission future of trucking.
But is it too much? Too soon? Especially with their financials the way they are.
That's the million-dollar question. They keep talking about this one truck platform, two powertrains concept.
Right.
From a manufacturing standpoint, that's clever, efficient even. But can they get enough customers to buy in on both options?
Yeah, especially with all the challenges that come with each technology.
Oh, absolutely.
Like the BEVs. They're making a comeback after that huge recall.
Which is great news, don't get me wrong.
Oh, yeah, it's huge.
It's just they still need to prove that they can be reliable, perform well, in the long term, to really win over those skeptical fleet operators.
Yeah, and on the fuel cell side, they're basically starting from scratch.
Building an entirely new ecosystem.
Fueling infrastructure, hydrogen production, it's a long game.
A very long game.
And an expensive one.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got record sales in a really specific market. We've got financial concerns, and then we've got this dual technology strategy, which could be brilliant.
Or a complete disaster.
High risk, high reward. It's all very tense.
Tense is a good word for it. But there are some bright spots. We should talk about how the BEV 2.0 is doing in the real world. There were some good stories in the earnings call.
Yeah, like that one fleet operator who's using the BEV 2.0 for like those long hauls.
Yeah.
Going from northeast ports to the Midwest. Over 800 miles on a single charge.
800 miles.
Yeah.
That's incredible. And it's not just about the range either. They're actually getting valuable data from these real-world tests.
Yeah. They talked about seeing more and more runs exceeding 400 miles before needing to recharge.
Which means the BEV 2.0 is living up to the hype.
It's pretty reassuring, honestly. Especially after that recall.
Yeah, totally. It shows that they're actually walking the walk, not just talking the talk. What about the fuel cell trucks, though? Any big news there?
Well, they did that 1,200-mile road trip from Phoenix to Bentonville, Arkansas.
Okay.
Yeah, and they went through some pretty serious inclines, too. So it's clear that the truck has the power to get the job done.
So both powertrains are showing real potential. But like we talked about earlier, the fuel cell side really needs that whole ecosystem to be built out. How are they tackling that?
They're working on getting 10 HYLA fueling stations up and running by the end of the year. And they're trying to get more support at the stations that already exist so they can handle more trucks.
It's a smart move. They need to show everyone that they're serious about making this hydrogen thing work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's not just about their trucks. It's about the entire industry.
Right. They did mention that they're in the final stages of getting approvals for some new stations in California.
Oh, wow.
Which would be huge for them.
Yeah, California's a big market.
For sure.
Okay, so they're definitely making moves with the infrastructure. But let's be real. All of this is kind of overshadowed by their finances. They're burning through cash pretty quickly.
It's true. And they were pretty transparent about it during the call. They even broke down their cash burn for the quarter, which is actually higher than the previous quarters.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, it reached $162 million.
Yikes.
But they did point out that there were some one-time payments and supplier negotiations that impacted that number.
Okay, so it's not all bad news.
Right. Their normalized burn rate is still high, though, around $145 million.
Okay, it's still a lot.
Yeah, it is. And that's why they're so focused on finding partners. They need more money and they need it fast.
They did mention that they're talking to some potential partners, companies that are trying to reduce their carbon footprint, hydrogen producers who want to grow, even some other automotive companies that are working with fuel cells.
Makes sense. They're trying to build a coalition. That's what their CEO called it.
A coalition. I like that.
But those things take time. And unfortunately, time is something they don't really have.
It's almost like they're in a high-stakes poker game. They went all in on this zero-emission future, and now they're just waiting to see what cards they get dealt.
It's a good analogy. And for everyone listening, it really highlights just how uncertain Nikola's future is.
Right. They're doing some really impressive things,
They are.
but it all comes down to their finances.
Exactly.
So we've laid it all out, the progress, the challenges, the financial situation. Now let's get into the specifics. What makes their technology stand out?
Let's do it. Their commitment to hydrogen fuel cells for like heavy-duty trucking is impressive. Not a lot of companies are doing that.
Right. It's interesting because most of the EV hype is around passenger cars and delivery trucks. But Nikola's all about the long haul. And that's where fuel cells could really shine.
Exactly. Think about those huge trucks hauling freight across the country. They need to go far, and they can't afford to be stuck charging for hours. Fuel cells make more sense there because they refuel faster and can go longer distances.
So they're targeting a very specific part of the EV market. Risky, but smart.
Definitely. They're not trying to compete with Tesla head on. They're creating their own space.
It's like they're saying, hey, Tesla, we're not even playing the same game.
Exactly. And they're also really smart about how they build their trucks. Both fuel cell and battery electric trucks can be built on the same production line.
Yeah, we talked about that earlier.
Yeah.
But it's worth digging into a little more. That's not something you see every day.
Very unusual. Most companies would have separate lines for each type of vehicle, but Nikola's system is super flexible.
So if they suddenly need to make way more fuel cell trucks, they could just switch gears
Yeah.
without having to rebuild their entire factory.
Exactly. Super efficient. And it means they can meet the needs of more customers. Some fleets might be ready for hydrogen. Others might want to stick with BEVs. Nikola can do both.
It's like they're saying we're all in on zero-emission trucking no matter what.
Exactly. It's a platform for the future, not just a product for right now. They're betting on their ability to adapt and stay ahead.
Okay, but they still need customers. And they need to earn people's trust after that BEV recall. How are they doing that?
They're using all the data they're collecting. They talked about how they're seeing an increase in the number of runs that are going over 400 miles before they need to refuel for the fuel cell trucks.
Wow, so the drivers are pushing these trucks to the limit and they're delivering? That's got to be good for business.
It is. And they're using that data to make the technology even better. The more trucks they have out there, the more data they get. And the better the trucks become.
It's a smart cycle. But data can only do so much. They still need to solve that whole infrastructure problem for hydrogen. Can't sell a fuel cell truck if you can't fuel it up.
Totally agree. It's the classic chicken and egg situation. Fleet operators don't want the trucks without the stations, but building stations is expensive if no one's going to use them.
So that's the solution.
They're working on it from both sides, expanding their HYLA fueling network, trying to get 10 stations open by the end of the year, and they're trying to get more support at the stations that already exist.
Okay, so they're putting their money where their mouth is when it comes to infrastructure. But building those stations takes time. And they need money now. That's where those partnerships come in.
Right. 100%. Partnerships could bring in the money they need, plus expertise and access to new markets. It's not about doing it alone anymore. It's about working together.
And all those potential partners are watching them closely. Every earnings call, every press release, every truck that goes out the door.
They're under a microscope, and their success is going to depend on convincing those partners that they're worth the investment.
So we've talked about their technology, their strategy, their challenges, but there's also this bigger picture. They're not just trying to build trucks. They want to build a whole hydrogen ecosystem.
Right. Think of it this way. They're not just selling a vehicle. They're selling a solution to a big problem. How do we get rid of carbon emissions from heavy-duty transportation?
It's ambitious. It's almost like they're trying to create a movement, not just a company.
And it's a movement that's picking up steam. Green hydrogen is becoming a really big deal. Governments and investors are pouring money into it.
So even though Nikola's taking a big risk, their timing could be perfect. If they can become a leader in this new hydrogen economy, the rewards could be huge.
It's all about riding that wave. But they have to prove that they're not just a fad. They need to show everyone that their business model can last.
And that brings us back to their biggest problem, their finances. Can they get the partnerships and the money they need to actually make this vision a reality?
That's the question that's going to determine their future. They've got the technology, they've got the ambition, but can they survive long enough to see it all through?
So we've covered a lot of ground. Record sales, Financial troubles, dual powertrains, hydrogen ecosystems. Nikola's story is complicated, and it's changing all the time.
It really highlights the ups and downs of this transition to a more sustainable future. It's tough, it's uncertain, but it's definitely interesting.
Feels like we're at a turning point, not just for Nikola, but for the whole industry. Zero-emission trucking. It's happening.
It's a whole new way of thinking about transportation, and Nikola's right there, trying to figure it all out.
And it's not just about the trucks. It's that whole ecosystem. That's what makes them different.
Yeah, they're not just throwing a truck at you and saying good luck. They're working on the fueling stations, the hydrogen production, the whole thing.
It's a huge project, but it's smart. If they can make it work, they're not just selling a truck. They're selling a solution.
Exactly. It's like
Yeah,
instead of just selling a smartphone, they're building the whole network that goes with it. It's a different level.
And then you've got the whole green hydrogen trend. It seems like every day there's a new announcement about some project or investment.
It's a hot topic for sure. Green hydrogen is seen as a key part of making heavy industries more sustainable, and Nikola wants to be a big part of that.
So it's not just about changing the trucking industry. They want to change the energy sector too, which is a bold move, especially with their financial situation.
For sure, but it shows that they're thinking long term, not just about the next few months, but the next 10 years.
And for investors, that's important. Nikola is risky, no doubt about it. But it's also a bet on a potentially huge market shift.
Absolutely. If they can get past these immediate challenges, the potential is there. But those challenges are real. Getting those partnerships, sorting out the finances, that's what's going to decide if they make it.
So what should we be watching for? What's going to tell us if Nikola's on the right track?
Any news about partnerships or investments is huge. That's what they need right now, more than anything. But it's also about execution. Can they actually make the number of trucks they're aiming for, both fuel cell and battery electric?
And can they build out those hydrogen fueling stations and actually get enough green hydrogen to keep them running?
Yep. It's about making progress everywhere. Technology, finances, strategy. They need to show everyone that they can actually deliver.
Well, it's clear that Nikola's story isn't over yet. They've got a big vision, they've got big challenges, and they're in a market that's changing fast. It'll be interesting to see what happens next.
Definitely. And for everyone listening, we encourage you to stay informed. Do your own research. Think for yourself. The future of transportation is happening right now. And companies like Nikola are leading the way.
And that's it for our deep dives into Nikola's Q3 2024 earnings call. We've looked at the good and the bad, the potential and the risks. Now it's up to you to decide what you think.
It's important to remember that the road to a sustainable future isn't always easy. There are going to be bumps along the way, wrong turns, maybe even a few breakdowns, but it's a journey worth taking.
And as always, we'll be here to break it all down for you. Offer our insights and analysis every step of the way. Until next time, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep diving deep.